Welcome to EPG Pathshala. Myself, Dr. Pankaj Kumar, Assistant Professor in Sociology, teaching Sociology, Asansol Girls College under Kazi Nazrul University, Asansol. Today we are going to discuss paper Social Movement, and module name is Leadership, Ideology in Social Movement. So here basically we are dealing with the role of leader in the social movement, because these two things, leader and the ideology, is playing very important role as far as social movement is concerned, because this is a leader who bring out all sort of collective mobilizations and how the people will be brought in, how the courses of the movement, that is the fixed by these leader. If the leader will be the charismatic, so you will find the movement will be going in the good path. That we have taken the example during the freedom movement or before freedom movement, because these are leaders that we can say that example we can put it Subhash Chandra Bose, Mahatma Gandhi and the others leaders, those who have played very leading role for the diverting or coming the movement in the conclusive end. So the role of leader is very important as far as movement is concerned. So first I would like to here discuss the meaning of leadership. Leader as a chief architect of social movement. Social movement can never occur in a vacuum without the leadership. So movement without organizing or mobilizing can hardly be thought of. So it is the role of leader who can mobilize the masses and bring out for doing any sort of successful movement. The people who perform this task of mobilization, people who acting, are called as a leader. Leader are a cut above the average in social background, intellectual and skill. They are different from the common man. So we can say in the movement, leaders are basically the agent of social mobilization and are the promoter of its organizational structure, because without the role of leaders we can't call as a very basic and organizational structure. It is the role of leader who brought out the structure, how the structure of the movement will be, how the mobilization of the people will be done. It is basically dependent on the role of leaders. Leadership promote the pursuit of goal, development, strategy, tactics for action and the formulation and ideology. And it is the leader whose ideology is playing very important role for going or pacify the movement in different directions. Leaders define objective of the movement, provide the means of action, maintaining the structure of the movement. So we have to discuss the level of leadership, how the leadership will work. In the 4 stages of life cycle of a movement, we experience leadership at 4 levels. Agitator, first stage is how the movement is lead, how the leadership will lead the movement. First one is, that is we can call agitators. Then the second stage we are calling as the prophet. Second stage, that's a popular excitement, how the leader, how they can excite the people and coming into the gathering and how the movement lead in which directions. Third one is administrator, how the leader will administer the movement, which direction, how they will formalize the policies, how they will lead the people. So this is the administrator of the leadership. Then the fourth one is statesman, fourth stage of statesman, that calling as the stage of institutionalizations, where he will put it in which direction, how after the successful movement, how can I put it, and what will be the course of action after the movement will be succeeded. So here we'll talk about the types of leadership which the different sociologists talking about in the different modes. Weberian formulations, the Max Weber is talking about the 3 different type of leadership, where you will find the 3 type of, where first he is talking about the charismatic. A leader can be charismatic, that we can find during the freedom struggle, role of the Mahatma Gandhi, or we can say in Bengal, or especially in the nasal role, we can say the role of Subhash Chandra Bose, how he has his role of charisma or charismatic, how he mobilized the people in mass number and lead the freedom struggle. This is the charismatic, this is the example of the charismatic leadership. Rational leaders emerge soon, movement develop form organization of some kind. Rational leaders, especially when suppose we can take the example of see the Indian National Congress, there who will be the president, they can lead the movement. That is the rationale, because the people of the national movement, they appoint one person, they select one person who will lead their movement. So this is a rationale without the thinking, and after the going through the thorough election, they appoint one person. So this is the second. The third one is traditional. Rarely you will find, or especially we can find in the peasant or in tribal movement, you will find certain leader who can call as a traditional leaders. So now we can discuss after the categories leadership in the new social movement. So in new social movement, what you will find, the market shift in the world view of the leaders. That's a shifted from that traditional mode of leadership. Here this is a market shifting. Here the globalization process bring out the something different from the which we are talking about the movement in the pre-independence or post-independence. Now in globalizations we find the different type of movement emerging. So here the role of leaders changing during the course of new social movement. Leader in case of new social movement are projecting as a public domain instead of private one. Now it's a public domain. See the use of public domain, because it's everything put in the public domain through the website, through the media and other things. They will highlight the role of leaders. The transcendence of the local issue into the global forum through the medias. Here the role of leaders, how they can influence, how they can spread their message throughout the globe. The leadership in the new social movement are concerned with the issue of global civic concern. That will be more important their role is. Now if you see the leadership in the peasant movement, which is generated maybe during the pre-independence and post-independence period, that's a different, because we will find the peasant struggle assume political character with the intervention of the leaders. You will find the so many peasant struggle during the freedom movement. Even the Mahatma Gandhi and other freedom struggle leaders, they have fought the peasant struggle. That notion, that shape was different from the today's. Leader of the peasant movement in India were mostly from the urban educated middle class background, because they have seen through the educated, then see the whatever the differences, maybe they have distinguished between the urban or characterize or see the what is the difference between the two society, which even the Max Weber or August Comte is talking about the comparison between the two society, where they have talked about the rural and urban society. They have seen, then they have rises about the whatever the lacunas is there, then they rise and try to remove, and whatever if there is any problem of the peace, and they try to start the movement against the colonial or post-colonial period. So we have seen that Bengal Naxalite movement against the urban middle class based leadership, which they took over in the rural areas. Mostly the leaders are from the urban middle class. And after that, if we see the tribal movement, in the tribal area, tribal hinterland, tribal movement are generally considered as a spontaneous phenomena without the leadership. But what we'll find, the leader are, even though in the tribal areas, leader are leading a very prominent role, because the leaders, how they can mobilize. So it is the role of the leaders, they can mobilize the people. So even in the tribal area, the leaders are very important role. However, the leaders factors can be of a crucial importance in the case of tribal movement. It's a very true in that sense. Sidhu and Kanu movement, leader of the Santhal rebellion. See that these two examples, Sidhu and Kanu, is leading the very important role. Without him, the Santhal rebellion was not possible, because he characterized how their past history was attached with how their suffering, whatever suffering was done by the Britishers. They correlate. Then the movement was Sidhu Kanu role, and the movement was successful. Santhal Urao and the Mudas rebellions come from the religious leaders, because the religious leader, they brought it and correlate with the tribal movement, successful nature of the tribal movement. So after that we can discuss the Dalit movements, how the Dalits pre-independence and post-independence. When we talked about the Dalit movement, what will come around the role of B.R. Ambedkar and Jyotiba Phule. So these two figures will find the very charismatic. If you see the example of B.R. Ambedkar, he is a very charismatic leader. If you see, he compared the Indian society with the West. Whatever the lacunas here, he compared when after getting education in the West, especially in the England, he come out and compared the Indian society with the West. Whatever the problem, whatever the boycott, discrimination against him, that he come forward and try to even he will become the chairman of the Constitutional Drafting Committee, try to bring out with his efforts with his efforts, the new laws regarding the untouchability has been come up and try to solve the untouchability problem within the Indian society. So the contemporary Dalit movement has experienced the outside leader mostly hailing from the urban middle class, and their importance is very important. So leadership, if you see the leadership in the backward caste movement, they are also very important, because the backward caste movement generally started in the south against the Brahminical mode of society. Here the Vellara, Reddy and Kamar was a very prominent movement in the south. In the north, we will find the in 90s, after the BP Mandal Commission, when it will come out with the report of Mandal Commission, then the 90s, the movement has generated when the BP Singh government tried to put it or amend the constitution and bring out the 27% reservation for the OBCs. But in the south, you will find in the south it was come earlier, bit earlier. So leadership is very important. In the north and south, you will find these leaders who bring about the change or give the concrete solution to the movement, and the lower caste or backward caste got the solution, whatever the ratio in the society, whatever their position in the society. Through the effort of these leaders, they got the position in the society. Same way we can find the role of Jyotiba Phule. The ideology of non-Brahmins movement in Maharashtra stress on the culture, ethic factor rather than the socio-economic factor. So we can see now take up the leadership in the Bhudan movement. So in the Bhudan also, what we can see, the charismatic leadership of Vinoba Bhave, because this is a charisma of the Vinoba Bhave that people are ready to give the land. Otherwise, it is not possible in Indian society that people are ready to leave the land to any national leader. So in that movement, what you will find, the charisma of the leader. Bhudan movement emphasized on the charismatic leadership and was solely leader centric. So here the leader centric was Vinoba Bhave. The prominent name in the Bhudan movement was definitely a charismatic leader. Bhave saintly gesture and the appeal brought him success in the accumulation of land in the name of donation, Bhudan, that later on the redistribution among the landless people of the Telangana region. Otherwise, it won't possible for the successful of this Bhudana Andolan. So now we can take up the leadership in the ethnic movement. So leadership of the ethnic movement are the conscious categories. Leader only bring forth the already existing discontentment on the surface. So in the ethnic also, so leader are very prominent. Leader are primarily indigenous and a spontaneous growth from the within the ethnic group. Alternative leadership, factionalism in the common in case of long drawn ethnic movement in Indian society. So leadership in the new social movement in India are generated, especially we can find the anti-corruption movement like Anna Hazare. We can find is started spontaneous, that we can find him as a charismatic leader. Even in the Chipko movement, Baba Amte and other women's section, those who are leading the environmentalists, they are fighting, they are contributing their role in the Chipko movement. And even if you see the Narmada Bachao Andolan, in that Andolan also see the role of some of the civil society concerned, even the Medha Patkar and others, spontaneous, that we can say they are charismatic, how to mobilize people on one platform and then start the movement. Same case we can see the role of Sundarlal Bahuguna in Chipko movement also. It is his role that he brought the people and spread the message in the global level. So beside the environmentalist and human rights activists in Narmada Bachao Andolan also attract the participation of Adivasi and the farmers. So that's why we can find these are the movement which are called as a new social movement in India is such a successful due to the very good role of leaders. Self-employed women association was launched by Ella Bhatt. That also we can find the role of leaders, otherwise the movement can't be successful. So now we can discuss the relation between leader and masses. Mass leader relationship can be explained through a series of three concentric ring or circle. First one is principal leadership, second is individual with a definite interest, and third one is fair weather friendly. Then only this relationship can be go. Now the relationship between leader and masses. Within these three centric ring or circle armored Mausa place the movement sympathizer, the fair wealth friend, Second is relationship between leader and the masses. Within these three concentric ring or circle, armored mouse place the movement sympathizer, the fair weather friends, one who support vex and wane, with the movement's own success and failure at the outermost ring. The next ring consists of the individual who have definite interest in the success of the movement, and the innermost ring contains the principal leaders having their goal exclusively in the success of the movement. Relation between leader and the masses. Leader consistency relationship has to be understood in the relation term. The foundation of leadership be sought in the type of relation that link the actors together. Leaders is then a form of interaction in which each of the actor make a specific investment and get back specific advantages. A continuous bargaining takes place in this otherwise mutually advantageous relationship. Social movement literature largely depicted the leader-mass relationship as one dimensional phenomena and mutes the mass perspective, because without this relationship any movement can't go or sustain very long. So history from below and the subaltern study give as a different view in this context. So the history from below project put emphasis on the form of consciousness and self-activity of the general masses. Without belittling the cause and indispensability of the leader, this subaltern study can't be successful, because in the subaltern what we'll find the role of the masses. Subaltern historians have also tried to develop the autonomy of the mass movement subalterns from the grand nationalist elitist positions. They argue that subaltern movement are led by poor farmer, shepherd, workers, laborers, tribal people and oppressed caste women and people who were relatively free and hardly influenced by the outside elite leadership. So the ideology and the social movement play a very important role. Ideology is considered as a relatively stable and coherent set of values, belief, goal associated with the movement or the broader encompassing social entity assumed to provide the rationale for defending or challenging various social arrangement and condition of the society. Ideology of the social movement define the actor, indefinity, adversaries, indicator, goals, objective for which the struggle is done. So ideology play a very important role. In that sense, ideology distinguished a social movement from other varieties of collective behavior which we didn't find in other places. Ideology in the context of social movement has to be treated not merely as a framework of consciousness but also as a source of legitimizing action taken by the leaders. Ideology has an integrative function and also deployed as a strategic process in social movement of India. As the movement matured, two important aspects of ideology are called into play. The first one is that function of integration with respect to the movement as a whole. The second is direction toward a strategic process through which movement mediate with the political system on the one hand and widen the support base by including those who were previously outside the conflict. So the social movement, by defining a dynamic process and the relationship between ideology and the movement, is also not a static phenomena in the society. A movement may start with a specific ideology. A movement may acquire the same in the course of its development. Maybe a movement may shift its ideology stance if a movement has to negotiate with the state for a long time. That we have find during our freedom struggle, how the Gandhiji was sometime it's suspended the movement, sometime it's going very long way. So here we'll find even in the case of other leaders, suppose our other freedom struggle, maybe those who are maybe ideologically, if they want to change it, so they have to put it, if the movement is going for long, then it may be they try to change the ideology. So and lastly, I can say in the conclusion, both the leader and the ideology are of a crucial significance, because the leader, without the leader, without the leader a movement can't be successful, and it can be successful even when the ideology at the particular movement will lead with the role of any ideological base. Suppose take the example of Subhash Chandra Bose, what he has done during the freedom movement and after that, because it was his ideology that he never cooperate with the British government. Even he boycotted in the Indian Nation Congress, where he is saying no, whatever the means you are adopted as a moderator, we can't get freedom. So we have to take arms, we have to take the support of other world powers to defeat the British mighty British Empire. So he has taken the another part. His movement was also going for the long. Maybe later on what will find his the failure or success, that's a debatable issue, but role of leader, his ideology is very important, that we have seen in the case of Subhash Chandra Bose or in the case of Mahatma Gandhi also. So a well organized leadership and a consistent ideological frame distinguish social movement from the form of collective behavior that we have seen some of the peasant movement, that we have seen our new movement after the independence. Suppose it may be the Chipko movement, it may be the environment movement, it may be the Narmada Bachao Andolan, because see the Narmada Bachao Andolan still, even 2007 they got the some verdict from the Supreme Court. They have to fight for a long years against the land acquisition. They have to fight, still the leader are there fighting. So in that long period, maybe the ideological base, maybe the ideology may be shift from one side to another side, but they have to survive, they have to continue. So in that matter, I want to say that leader and his ideology is playing very important role for sustaining or continuing with the movement. So leadership and ideology continue to reflect upon the biography of a social movement as most crucial factor, indeed feeds its dynamism, because the dynamic leadership is always very important. Dynamic, that we are saying, the dynamic or charismatic leadership is very important that we have find whatever the movement we have seen pre-independence, post-independence, or after that also we will find whatever these days we are finding the environment movement. There we can find how the people are sacrificing their life for the cause of environment. Even the Sundarlal Bahuguna and other Chipko movement women's, what their role, even their sacrifice. When the trees are cut it in the Gadwal region, they sacrifice themselves, they are ready to sacrifice. Even for what we are finding in the Nandigram and Singur, people are ready to sacrifice. Where the leaders, it's a leader, role of the leaders, they mobilize the people, on that platform, come, then the people are ready to sacrifice. So in any movement, what you will find, the role of leader, if the leader is charismatic, if the leader is very, it's energetic, then the movement will be much more successful than the other movement, like a traditional movement where the leader are maybe elected by on the basis of the seniority or otherwise. So if the leader are charismatic, if the leader will be energetic, the movement will go such a long period and the course of action will be decided by the leader in that sense. So ideology and the leadership is, we can say, it's a very important factor for deciding the course of movement. Thank you. Or if you want to consult any of the references, then you have to go for the EPG Pathshala content, where you can find the social movement, paper social movement, and that's a module leadership, mass movement, and the ideology. There you can find the references of the books, from where you can find the different movements, how the different movement has been started, and some of the sociologists, how they have been talked about. From there we can find the references of the books. So thank you.